There are a ton of talents to unlock in Hogwarts Legacy, and they can significantly buff some of your spells, potions, or even your stealth capabilities. And it's important you make the right decisions, as you cannot respec your talents and there are not enough talent points in the game to unlock all of them. So in this video, we'll highlight some of the best talents that you want to get for your witch or wizard. If you are enjoying Hogwarts Legacy and like the content here on the channel, then leave a like to help us out, subscribe to not miss any of our spoiler-free tips and tricks videos, and let's go. So when you start the game, you don't immediately have access to your talent system, as it's unlocked through a main story quest called Jackdaw's Rest. Completing this quest will unlock the talent tree and also retroactively gives you any talent points you should have been awarded before. So as you can see, when I unlocked the system at level 11, I had 7 talent points available, whereas Joyce unlocked it at level 18 and got 14 talent points. Every time you level up, you gain a new talent point, and 40 seems to be the max level, which means you can only earn 36 points in total, while there are 48 available talents. And while you don't have to do this quest early on, as you're not missing out on any talent points, I definitely recommend making this a priority, as your talents can really improve the power of your spellcasting. And regardless of your playstyle, I think everyone should grab a few key talents from the core tree. As you can see, all talent trees are divided into 3 tiers, with the first unlocking at level 5, the second at 16, and the third at 22. Lucky for us, some of the core tree's most useful talents are already found in the first tier, so you can unlock them straight away. One that I enjoy using a lot is the Ancient Magic Throw Expertise talent. It allows you to throw disarmed enemy weapons, so very strong against the many goblins and enchanted armors you have to fight during the main story. The way to disarm someone is of course with the Expelliarmus spell, which is unlocked by completing your second assignment for Professor Hackett that becomes available after the Tomes and Tribulations main story mission. Then it's as simple as casting that spell on an enemy with a weapon and then immediately follow up with R1 or RB to perform an ancient magic throw on their weapon to deal some nice damage. This of course makes the Expelliarmus spell way more useful, and if you want to buff up more of your spells, then there's a category of talents for that too. But simply, you find modifiers here for most of your slottable spells to enhance their effects. If you're looking for a way to deal some nice fire damage, the upgrade to Confringo is really good. It spawns homing projectiles when you hit an enemy with Confringo that will also ignite their targets if they hit, which makes it a really great spell against spiders and other creatures that are vulnerable to fire, like in theory. If you've yet to learn that spell, it becomes available during the main story quest in the Shadow of the Undercroft. And more talents that you can get earlier are actually really nice, like Incendio Mastery, Swift Basic Cast Mastery, and Spell Diamonds. Jordan already went over that in our Amazing Things You Want to Get Early video, so totally check that one out for a more detailed explanation and other tips. For now, I want to focus on amazing talents we haven't discussed yet, and also some that you can only get a little bit later in the game. Another spell upgrade that really helped me out a lot is the Mastery talent for Accio. It's a spell I love to use in general, but made even better with the upgrade, as it allows you to pull in multiple enemies at once instead of just a single target. Enemies have to be relatively close to each other for this to work, but still it offers a lot of extra control, and it pairs nicely with another spell upgrade that I will get to in a bit. If you, by the way, enjoy the Levioso spell more, there is a similar upgrade in the spells tree as well, so you can choose to go for the one you prefer, or you can pick up both of them. Finally, the Edgerus potion can be a real lifesaver against tougher foes, as you can see here that it significantly reduces your damage taken, but with an upgrade from the Room of Requirement tree, you can literally make yourself invulnerable while also deflecting enemy ranged attacks for a full 20 seconds. You will have bought the recipe for these potions during the main quest, and the ingredients can be found while exploring or bought from Pippin's Potions. And while you can't choose where the deflected attacks go, you can't be damaged by anything, even AoE spells like this Thunderstorm or attacks with a red marker. It even allows you to deflect some spells you normally would not be able to, like here you see a Petrificus Totalis from an enemy bounce off back to the caster. And there are more great talents in this Room of Requirement tree, but they all require you to have the required potions or plants, so it can be quite expensive. We also want to try them out a bit more, so expect a future video where we go in depth on these talents. For now, we want to stick to the ones anyone can use regardless of their playstyle. After leveling up some more, you should be able to access the second and eventually the third tier of skills. While I think the second tier of the core skills aren't that exciting, with the exception of another spell diamond and an upgrade for your Wiggenweld potions, the third tier has some great talents, specifically if you enjoy blocking and parrying. parrying. Protego Mastery releases a damaging shockwave that also breaks enemy shields on a perfect parry. The way you perform these is by looking at the two yellow halos that appear above your head as an enemy is about to attack, and then waiting until they overlap, so basically become one circle before you press triangle or Y. Get the timing right and you blast enemies back with a powerful shockwave. You can of course follow up any successful use of Protego with Stupefy by holding down the button, and the Stupefy expertise talent makes it so that the spell also deals damage. In its basic form it only stuns an enemy and it increases the damage of your follow-up attacks, but with this talent you can actually output some decent damage every time you counter an enemy attack. Stack that with the damage from the shockwave from your perfect Protego and the increased damage to a target hit by Stupefy, and you'll see a big increase in your overall damage. So even if your first instinct is to dodge rather than parry, you might want to try switching things up after unlocking these upgrades. The second and third tier of spell talents also have some really worthwhile upgrades, one of my favorites being the mastery talent for Descendo. You learn this spell by completing an assignment for Professor Onai that becomes available after it turns autumn in the story. In its basic form it quickly slams an enemy to the ground, dealing minor damage, but this can be significantly increased if an enemy is slammed down while levitating. So by either casting Accio or Levioso on a target, or multiple if you have the upgrades we mentioned, you can follow up with Descendo to deal massive damage. With the talent unlocked, slamming an enemy down will also create a shockwave, damaging all nearby enemies in the process. And remember that airborne targets take increased damage, so grabbing multiple enemies with Accio or Levioso and then following up with Descendo allows you to deal maximum damage to more than one target. And while it isn't necessarily my preferred style of play, there is a pretty great talent to unlock in the stealth tree too, right Jordan?
Yes Dennis, I really like sneaking around, so immediately unlocked that human demiguise talent, as I also noted in my previous video. Like, there are some stealth missions in the game as well, or when unlocking the eye chest, it's nice to be able to sprint. So I think this one is totally worth getting, but it's hard to recommend the other stealth talents. Like the level 22 talent that lets you nuke multiple enemies that are close to each other with Petrificus Totalis is really awesome, but in my experience it's pretty rare that you find two or let alone even more enemies close to each other like that. For example here, this is not close enough, so then I still have to take them out one by one, and when trying to get into position for this multi-kill, you will also be easily spotted. So then you could use the other two talents that reduce the chance that enemies detect you, but I think it's overall not worth it. Like, it's really cool when you can make this happen, but it's sadly not as often to make it one of the best skills that I would recommend. Now, one that I do think you should totally get is Transformation Mastery. You unlock the transformation spell during your first class from Professor Weasley. It's the second main story mission after it turns winter in the game. And normally you turn enemies into a regular barrel with this spell, but with this talent, that barrel becomes an explosive one, which of course deals way more damage and can also hit multiple targets. It's really satisfying to turn an enemy into a powerful item that you can then use against their friends. You can also use it to turn a dark wizard who just transformed into an animagus back to human form, which is a cool touch. But I don't think you need the talent for this in order to do it. Now, this spell doesn't work on bigger enemies, so also ones you cannot lift up or use Accio on, although many other strong targets can become an explosive barrel, which will then also instantly kill them. It's also fun to do this when there's only one enemy left. Just like turn them into a barrel, destroy that barrel with basic shots, and you end the fight. And you find way more powerful talents in the Dark Arts tree, but only if you want to play around with the unforgivable curses. And Dennis, as the Dark Wizard of the JorRaptor team, you already went in depth on this overpowered playstyle, right?
Yes, that's right, and as expected, it's really powerful, allowing you to kill entire groups of enemies with one spell. You can watch our in-depth video on the Dark Arts that also covers how to get the unforgivable curses by clicking on the screen. Subscribe for way more spoiler-free Hogwarts Legacy tips and tricks like this. A like would help us out, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye!